God is not unable to kill Satan. God is unwilling to kill Satan. And the reason will change how you understand every moment of suffering you have ever experienced. There are 5 words spoken before the foundation of the world that put the entire universe on trial. And until those 5 words are answered, Satan cannot die. You have been asking the wrong question. You have been asking, why doesn't God destroy Satan? And that question has 2 answers that everyone gives, and both of them are wrong. The atheist says, God cannot destroy Satan because God is too weak, or because God does not exist. The Christian says, God is waiting for the right moment, playing some cosmic chess match, moving pieces into position. This is not a chess match. This is a courtroom. And there is a difference between a king who delays and a judge who is bound by process. A king can kill on a whim. A judge cannot. A judge is constrained, not by weakness, but by the integrity of the verdict. Kill the defendant before the trial concludes, and you do not get justice. You get tyranny. Picture it, a courtroom, but not one built by human hands. The floor is cold marble, stretching beyond the reach of sight. The bench rises so high that the one who sits upon it is shrouded in light, too bright to look at directly. And the gallery. The gallery has no walls. It extends in every direction. Billions of beings sit in those seats. Not humans, beings older than the earth itself. And they are watching. There is a defendant's chair. There is a prosecutor's podium. And in the next 40 minutes, you will see the 5 words that started this trial, the legal strategy Satan is using to delay his own sentencing, and the reason your suffering, your faith, your doubt, are evidence in the case. If you have ever asked why God allows evil, stay here, because this is the answer the church has been afraid to give you. Open the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 6. The text does not say Satan came before God. The Hebrew is precise. It says ha-Satan, with the definite article. The Satan. This is not a name. It is a title. In ancient Hebrew legal proceedings, ha-Satan means the accuser, the adversary, the prosecutor. Job chapter 1 is not a story. It is a court transcript. Today, if you visit the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, you can see fragments of Job from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Targum of Job, Cave 11, Qumran. The oldest surviving copy of this courtroom scene. 2,000 years of parchment, and the legal language has not changed. The sons of God present themselves before the Lord. The text uses the language of a court assembly. Formal, procedural, ordered. And among them comes, "Hey, Satan." The judge speaks first, not in surprise, in protocol. Where have you come from? This is a judge addressing counsel. He already knows the answer. He is establishing it for the record. Ha-Satan answers, "From roaming through the earth and going back and forth in it." Listen to the tone. This is not a defeated enemy cowering before a throne. This is a prosecutor returning from a field investigation. He has been gathering evidence, walking the earth, watching humanity, building his case. And then the judge does something that has troubled theologians for 3,000 years. He raises the case himself. Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. Blameless, upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. God is not bragging. God is entering evidence. He is presenting a witness for the defense. And the prosecutor objects. Does Job fear God for nothing? 5 words. There they are. The 5 words that put the universe on trial. Does Job fear God for nothing? Strip away the blessings, remove the hedge, take the wealth, the children, the health, and watch what happens to his worship. The prosecutor is not asking about Job. He is asking about the system. He is saying, God, your creatures only love you because you pay them to. And that accusation, once spoken in the hearing of the court, cannot be silenced by execution. You cannot kill a prosecutor for filing a motion. You cannot destroy the accuser before the accusation has been answered, because every being in that gallery heard those 5 words. And now, every being in that gallery needs to see whether they are true. So God does not strike him down. God opens the case. Very well. Everything he has is in your power. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger. These are not the words of a king granting permission. These are the words of a judge setting the parameters of a legal test. The trial of Job. The trial of humanity. The trial of God's own character begins. And you, sitting where you are right now, you are not outside this courtroom. You are in it. Your life, your suffering, your faith that barely holds on some nights. It is all evidence. The question is not why God allows evil. The question is, what trial is God conducting, and what happens if he ends it early? You have seen paintings of Satan as a red monster with horns. Forget every one of them. The prophet Ezekiel was given a vision of this being, not after the fall, but before it. And what he describes is not a monster. It is the most beautiful thing God ever made. Ezekiel 28, verse 12. You are the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. The Hebrew word for seal is chotem, the stamp pressed into hot wax to mark a document as complete, finished, final. God made this being and then set down the stamp. Nothing more beautiful would ever be created. He was the last word in the art of heaven. Ezekiel lists 9 precious stones set into this being's very body: sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle. Light did not just fall on him. It passed through him, refracted, multiplied. He was a living prism. And here is what almost no one catches. Open Exodus 28. The high priest's breastplate carried 12 stones, 1 for each tribe of Israel. Lucifer carried 9. He was adorned like a priest, but he was missing 3 stones. 9 stones, not 12. He was given priestly access, the right to stand in the presence of God, but not priestly authority, not the full mantle. And that gap between what he had and what he wanted, between 9 stones and 12, that is the hairline fracture where the crime begins. Not in what he lacked, in what he decided he deserved. Ezekiel 28, verse 14. You were the anointed guardian cherub. I placed you on the holy mountain of God. You walked among the fiery stones. Close your eyes and picture this. A mountain where the ground itself is fire. Not fire that burns, fire that adorns. Every step sends ripples of light across the surface like footprints in liquid gold. And this being walks there as if it were home, because it was. This is the paradise before the paradise. This is Eden before Eden had a garden. And the being who walks here is not yet the serpent, not yet the accuser, not yet Ha-Satan. He is Hillel ben Shachar, the shining one, son of the dawn, and he is about to speak 5 words that will shatter everything. Isaiah 14, verse 13, the fracture. I will ascend to heaven. Quiet, almost a whisper. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. Louder now, but still internal. A thought hardening into intention. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. And then the 5th, the one that changes everything. I will make myself like the Most High. 5 declarations, not a battle cry, not a war chant. Listen to the language. I will. I will. I will, I will, I will. This is legal language. This is a claim of right. He is not attacking God. He is challenging God's right to rule. He is filing a countersuit against the sovereignty of heaven, and that changes everything. Because you cannot silence a legal challenge by killing the challenger. Do that, and every being in the gallery whispers the same thing for eternity. Maybe he was right. Maybe God destroyed him because he could not answer him. The 5 I will statements are not rebellion. They are a motion to the court, and once that motion is filed, in the hearing of billions, it must be answered, not with force, with evidence. And that, right there, is why you are alive. That is why the trial has not ended. That is why the most beautiful being ever made still breathes. Because the evidence is not yet complete, and some of that evidence is sitting in your chair, watching this screen, wondering why God has not answered your prayers. He has. You are the answer. You just did not know it yet. It does not begin with swords. It does not begin with fire. It begins with a whisper, and the whisper sounds like a question. Revelation 12 tells you a dragon's tail swept 1/3 of the stars of heaven, but the text does not say he dragged them. It says he swept them. The Greek word is sure. It means to draw, to pull along, not by force, by persuasion. 1/3 of heaven's population chose to leave, not because they were deceived, because they were persuaded. Picture it from the perspective of someone who was there. You are an angel. You have served at the throne since the moment you existed. And now, the most beautiful being you have ever known is walking through your ranks. Not shouting, not threatening, asking questions. Has God truly given you freedom if he demands worship? Is it freedom if there is only one option? And the worst part, the questions sound reasonable. This is not a battle scene. This is a vote. Lucifer is not recruiting soldiers. He is recruiting jurors. Every angel he turns is another voice in the gallery who will side with his legal argument. That God's system is rigged, that worship without alternative is not worship at all, that the courtroom itself is a sham. He does not need an army. He needs a majority opinion. And the argument he uses that day, listen to me, is the same argument you hear every time someone says, if God is good, why does he allow suffering? That is not a modern question. That question was first asked before the earth existed. It was asked in heaven by the prosecutor, and it was not a question at all. It was an opening statement. Now, the moment of the split, you are standing beside a companion, someone you have served with since the first breath of creation. You know the sound of their voice, the way you know light itself. And you watch them take a single step forward, not toward a battlefield, toward an invisible line that did not exist until this moment. A line drawn by choice alone, no fire, no swords, just a step. And then another angel takes that step, and another. You reach for your companion's arm. You do not have to do this. And they turn, and the light in their eyes, the light that has burned since the throne called them into being, is dimming, not extinguished, dimming like a star collapsing inward. And they say 4 words that will echo through every age that follows. I already have. The horror is not violence. The horror is the silence of choosing. Each footstep crossing that line echoes like a door closing, a sound that reverberates through a heaven that has never known loss. 1/3 of heaven empties like a jury walking out of the courtroom, and the seats they leave behind stay empty. Revelation 12, verses 7 through 9. Now, the war. Michael and his angels fight. The dragon and his angels fight back. And the text is precise about the outcome. They did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. This is not a close contest. It is not a struggle. It is decisive, total, instantaneous. They are cast out. But, and here is the critical point, cast out is not destroyed, expelled from the courtroom, not executed. The rebels fall like burning stars through an endless void, and they keep falling, and they survive the fall. Why? Because God made them that way. Luke chapter 20, verse 36. Angels cannot die. The Greek is ou dynastai apothenein. They are not able to die. This is not God's limitation. This is God's design. He created beings who could rebel and could not be killed, not because he failed to plan for this, because the trial requires living witnesses. Jude, verse 6, confirms it. The angels who abandoned their proper dwelling, he has kept in chains of darkness, reserved for judgment. Reserved, not destroyed, held for a verdict that has not yet been delivered. And here is the part that should stop you cold. Thousands of years before a single human drew breath, thousands of years before you drew breath, the courtroom was already in session. The prosecutor had already been expelled. The case had already been filed. The gallery was already watching. And humanity had not yet been created to serve as the evidence. You were born into a trial that was ancient before your species existed. And the question the court is still asking is the same question Lucifer whispered in that golden hall. Does anyone worship God because they want to? Now watch the prosecutor build his case. Satan's legal argument, and it is a legal argument, can be reduced to a single devastating claim. God's creatures only serve him because he bribes them with blessings. Remove the blessings, and worship collapses. Free will is an illusion. God's system only works under favorable conditions. This is not theology. This is a legal brief, and it requires testing to disprove. You cannot argue against it. You can only produce a witness who survives it. Job chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. The prosecutor speaks directly to God. Listen to the precision of this. Skin for skin. Everything a man has, he will give for his own life. But stretch out your hand. Strike his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. This is not rage. This is a legal prediction, a hypothesis submitted to the court, and the court allows the test. God's reply, measured, unhurried, devastating in its confidence. He is in your hand, but spare his life. 6 words, no argument, no defense, just permission and a boundary, because the judge does not need to argue. He already knows what the evidence will show. And then the testing begins. Job sits on an ash heap outside the city walls. His children are dead. His wealth is gone. His skin splits with boils that weep and crust and weep again. The ash grinds into the open sores when he moves. The stench of his own rotting flesh fills his nostrils. And his wife, the only person left, stands over him and says, "Curse God and die." The prosecutor's script, delivered by the last voice Job trusts. Job 13, verse 15. The prosecutor's case takes its first blow. From cracked lips, through a throat raw with grief, Job speaks 6 words that land in the cosmic courtroom like a gavel strike. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Not, I understand. Not, I agree. Trust. Blind, bleeding, inexplicable trust. One witness, one piece of evidence the prosecution cannot explain. But one witness is not enough to close a case. The prosecutor knows this. He has eternity, he has patience, and he has a strategy that the rabbis understood better than most theologians today. The Talmud, Tractate Bava Batra, 16a, records a stunning tradition. Satan, The evil inclination and the angel of death are one and the same. 3 names, 1 function. The rabbis understood what most readers miss. The accuser who stands in the courtroom, the tempter who gathers evidence on earth, and the executioner who seeks the death penalty are the same legal role. Prosecution. He accuses above. He tempts below to build his case file, and he demands the maximum sentence. 3 roles, 1 prosecutor, and he has been building his brief for longer than your species has existed. Zechariah chapter 3. The prophet sees a vision. Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and at his right hand. The position of the legal accuser in ancient courts. Stands Ha-Satan. The Hebrew is explicit. Lesitno, to be his adversary at law. And Joshua is wearing filthy garments, the priest of God standing in the cosmic courtroom, and his clothes are stained. The prosecutor's case writes itself. Look at your priest, look at the evidence. Your system produces corruption, not holiness. But God does not argue. God does not debate. God says 4 words, take off the filthy garments. And they clothed Joshua in clean robes. The defense strategy is not innocence. It is transformation. God does not deny the evidence. He removes it. The prosecutor's exhibit is stripped away and replaced with something the accuser has no category for: grace. Guilt acknowledged, guilt absorbed, guilt gone. And now I need you to understand where you stand in this. Every temptation you have ever faced was not random. It was a deposition. The prosecutor was gathering evidence. Every time you fell, it was filed. Every time you held, that went into the record too. 1 Peter 5, verse 8, your adversary the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. The Greek word for adversary is antidikos. It means opponent in a lawsuit. He is not hunting you for sport. He is building a case. That struggle you had last week, the one nobody saw, the one you thought was just between you and your own weakness. It was entered into a case file older than the earth. And the question the court is asking is not, are humans good? The court already knows the answer to that. The question is, will anyone worship God when it costs them everything? The prosecutor says no. The entire trial hangs on whether he is right. And your life, today, this hour, is evidence. You thought the church existed for you. It does not. The church exists for an audience you cannot see. And when the Apostle Paul wrote from a Roman prison that the rulers and authorities in heavenly realms are learning through the church, he was describing a gallery of billions watching your faith like evidence in the trial of the age. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 9, Paul writes, we have been made a spectacle to the entire universe, to angels and to men. Now, most people read that as a metaphor. It is not. The Greek word Paul uses is theatron. You know that word. You use it every weekend. Theater, an amphitheater, a structure built for watching. Paul is not reaching for poetry. He is describing architecture. The universe is a courtroom. The gallery is filled, and the church. Broken, suffering, persecuted, is not the audience. The church is the main act, not because God is cruel, because the gallery needs to see what free will worship looks like under pressure. Now hold that image, because Paul says something even more staggering in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 10. His intent was that now, through the church, the manifold wisdom of God should be made known to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly realms. Read that again. Through the church, made known to heavenly rulers. The church does not exist for the church. The church exists for the gallery. Every act of faith in suffering is a legal exhibit. Every forgiveness extended when hatred was earned. That is a closing argument. The angels, loyal and fallen, are learning something through you that they cannot learn any other way. And here is why. Angels chose once, irrevocably. The loyal angels chose God and cannot unchoose. The fallen angels chose rebellion and cannot return. They do not experience redemption. They have never been broken and rebuilt. They do not understand grace from the inside. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 16. The text is devastating in its precision. He does not help angels. He helps the descendants of Abraham. The trial requires a species that can fall and be restored, a species that can betray and be forgiven, a species that can be shattered into 1,000 pieces and then, impossibly, choose to worship the one who allowed the shattering. That is evidence that evil cannot manufacture. That is evidence that evil cannot refute. And that is why the gallery is watching you. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 12, records that angels long to look into these things. The Greek word is parakupsai, to stoop down and peer into, like someone bending over the edge of a balcony to see something happening below. The angels are not casually observing. They are craning their necks. They are gripping the railing, because what is happening on this planet is the most important evidence in the most important trial in the history of existence. Picture this, a Roman prison, sometime around 62 Anno Domini. The cell is cold stone. The lamp is almost out. Paul's wrists are raw under iron manacles. He has been beaten, shipwrecked, stoned, and left for dead. And he is not writing a complaint. He is not writing an appeal. He is writing Ephesians 3, verse 10. He understands. His chains are not punishment. His chains are evidence. The prosecutor said worship collapses under pressure. Paul, beaten, shipwrecked, stoned, imprisoned, is the rebuttal. Every scratch of his reed pen on that papyrus is a closing argument. Every word he writes in chains is a legal exhibit entered into the record of the trial. And the gallery leans closer, because they are watching a man who has every reason to curse God. And he is writing a hymn instead. And Paul knows they are there. Listen to his internal monologue as the ink dries. They are watching the powers, the principalities. They are watching us. Not because we are strong, but because we are weak and still choosing him. That is the evidence they cannot refute. Today you can visit the Mamertine prison in Rome. Now the Church of San Giuseppe dei Falegnami. Tradition holds this is where Paul was held. You can descend into a stone chamber 12 feet below street level. The iron ring where prisoners were chained is still embedded in the wall. 2,000 years after Paul wrote those words in chains, that ring is still there, and the trial is still in session. The gallery is still watching. And every morning you choose to pray, despite your pain, the prosecutor's case gets weaker. Every time you worship when the world gives you every reason to quit, the courtroom record grows, the evidence is still being entered, and you are the one entering it. The fire is already burning. The sentence has already been written. So why is Satan still walking free? Because the same legal system that guarantees your right to a fair trial guarantees his. And God will not break his own law, not even for the devil. Matthew chapter 25, verse 41. Jesus speaks the most terrifying sentence in all of Scripture. His voice does not shake. He does not shout. He speaks with the measured precision of a judge reading a sentence that was written before the defendant was born. Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Now listen to the Greek. The word translated prepared is hetoimas menon. It is a perfect passive participle. That matters. It means having been prepared in the past with the results continuing into the present. This fire was not lit at the moment of sentencing. This fire has been burning since before the foundation of the world. The sentence was written before the crime was committed. The lake of fire is not a reaction. It is a provision. So why the delay? Think about this in terms you already understand. A convicted murderer sits on death row for years, sometimes decades, not because the court is unsure, not because the judge is weak, because the legal process requires the exhaustion of every argument. Every appeal must be heard. Every claim must be answered. Every piece of evidence must be entered into the record. The prosecutor must be allowed to make every claim. The defense must answer every charge. Only when the record is complete can the sentence be carried out. God is not slow. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 9 makes this explicit. God is thorough, and thoroughness in a cosmic trial looks like patience to those sitting in the gallery. Romans chapter 16 verse 20. Paul writes, "The God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly." The Greek is antache, in speed, not soon in the way you mean it when you say, "I will be there soon." Swiftly, meaning when it happens, it will be instantaneous. The delay is in the process. The execution will be in a flash. And notice the anatomy of that verse. Under your feet, not God's feet, yours, the evidence. The church becomes the instrument of the verdict. The very people the prosecutor tried to break become the ones who deliver the sentence. You are not a bystander in this trial. You are the gavel. But God designed something the prosecutor never anticipated. Satan's strategy is delay. He believes that if the trial goes long enough humans will break, enough faith will collapse, enough evidence will accumulate on his side. But God built a system where the longer the trial runs, the more evidence piles up against the prosecutor. Every generation that holds faith under pressure is another exhibit. Every martyr is another witness. The delay that Satan thinks serves him is actually building the case that destroys him. Return with me to the courtroom. Same cold marble from the beginning, same infinite gallery, but it is not silent anymore. A murmur runs through the tears like wind through wheat. The evidence tables are buried. Scrolls upon scrolls upon scrolls. 2,000 years of exhibits. And the prosecutor, Ha-Satan, is no longer standing at his podium with confidence. He is pacing. His hands are restless. The case is slipping. The defendant's chair is empty because the defendant has become the judge. The one who was accused has taken the bench, and in his hand, a gavel, raised, not yet dropped. Revelation, chapter 20, verse 10. The lake of fire. The sentence exists. The execution is scheduled. Genesis, chapter 3, verse 15. The first sentence ever pronounced against the serpent, "He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." The heel was bruised at Calvary. The head has not yet been crushed, but the gavel is raised. The fire is waiting, and the record. Your faith, your worship under pressure is almost complete. The trial is closing, and when that gavel falls, it will not fall slowly. Now I need to talk to you directly, not about Satan, not about angels, about you. Because the reason you are watching this video at this exact moment is not the algorithm. It is evidence. The gallery is watching what you do with it. Right now, in whatever room you are sitting in, on whatever screen you are reading these words, you are not a spectator of this trial. You never were. You have asked the question, maybe out loud, maybe in the dark at 3 in the morning when no one was listening. If God is good, why does he allow suffering? You thought that was philosophy. It is not. That is the prosecutor's opening statement, word for word, and every time you repeat it, you are reading from his legal brief. He wrote that question. He filed it as a motion before the court of heaven, and he has been waiting for you to co-sign it. Not because he cares about your pain, because your doubt is his exhibit. Your bitterness is his evidence. Your silence in suffering is the only verdict he needs. But here is what he did not plan for. You are not a victim of the trial. You are the evidence that ends it. Every time you worship in pain, you are a witness for the defense. Every time you forgive when you have every right to hate, you are a closing argument. Every time you choose faith when the prosecutor has given you every reason to quit, the gallery gasps, because that is the evidence that evil cannot manufacture and cannot refute. Revelation 12, verse 11, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. You overcome the prosecutor not with power, with testimony, your life on the stand. Romans 8:18. Paul, writing in chains, says the suffering of this present time is not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed. Not will be, about to be. He is not minimizing your pain. He is telling you the trial is almost over. Hebrews 12:1. You are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. That is not poetry. That is the gallery. Now remember, Lucifer spoke 5 I will statements. I will ascend. I will raise my throne. I will sit on the mount. I will ascend above the heights. I will make myself like the Most High. 5 declarations of self. But there is a 6th statement that answers all 5. And it was not spoken on a mountain of fire. It was spoken in a garden. Not Eden, Gethsemane. One man, sweating blood, facing the worst suffering the prosecutor could design. Luke 22:42. And he says 3 words that broke the case wide open. Not my will. The defendant who became the judge first became the evidence. Jesus Christ. On the witness stand, the ultimate rebuttal. 5 times the accuser said, I will. Once the son said, not mine, and that was enough. The trial is still in session. The gallery is still watching. The prosecutor is still filing motions, but the verdict is already written. And the only question left is not whether Satan will burn. That is settled. The question is whose side of the courtroom your life is evidence for. The gavel is raised. Court is almost adjourned. And if you think this trial is shocking, wait until you see what happens to the angels who left. That story is next. Tell me in the comments, which moment hit you hardest? Was it the 5 I will statements? Was it Paul writing in chains? Was it the 3 words in Gethsemane? I read every single one because your answer, that is testimony too. The witness may step down,